You've mentioned fear of rejection and what we do to avoid experiencing the possibility of rejection. Can you
Mhm.
say more about that?
Well, again, it's consistent with the norm view of agency that what when we deal when we talk about rejection, when we deal with people who are experiencing rejection, again, with tact and timing, we want to help them see that often the most painful part of quote unquote being rejected by somebody else, which translates, let's translate that into everyday language. We're interested in someone, let's say romantically, and they're not interested in us. Well, most people, or many people at least, take that as rejection. When if we look at it at the simplest level, it's you want them, they don't want you. It's understandable that you would feel disappointed. But often what we do in order to explain what we are experiencing and naming as rejection from the other is by rejecting ourselves. Oh, they don't like me because I'm whatever. And then we all have our own list of real or perceived deficiencies that we address, and it can be, and it varies from person to person, how they name the shame for themselves, and the reason for the self-rejection. But you can see that, hopefully you can see at least that the fear of rejection is very closely tied to this theme of shaming. We reject ourselves and we shame ourselves, and these dynamics color our relationships, our lives in a very profound way.
As you're sharing, Larry, I'm thinking about some of the recent teaching you've been doing on human suffering. And I'm thinking about the distinction between suffering and self-created suffering. And in your example, if we are interested in someone and they're not interested in us, there is some suffering in that we're not receiving the same kind of attention and interest back. But then the other layer of self-created suffering is what you're speaking to here, where we then reject ourselves. We shame ourselves in that in a way that can be far more painful than
Right.
the rejection from the other.
Yeah, and really, I mean, it isn't that there isn't pain or in the disappointment that we experience, but the real suffering, as you're mentioning, Sherry, is what we end up doing to ourselves around all this. And for many people, it's it kind of adds to the pile of self-shaming and self-rejection that's already there. Just another area where they don't measure up, where they're not good enough, et cetera, et cetera. And so this kind of goes into the gunny sack that some of us carry around of shame and self-shaming and self-rejection that can in some people's lives can be dominating and paralyzing.